met you up there, and I was just like, this program alone has taken all of the little tidbits, kind of the frayed bits, and, brought them all together. And then working with you and Rob, it was like, okay, well, here's the rocket fuel just poured on the bonfire to like take this thing off. And it just reminded me like, wow, I need to focus in and put the energy into one place, even though that one place is consulting and is farming. It's consulting around farming. And one of the big reasons I got into raising livestock was because I didn't feel like I could go help farmers improve a livestock operation or a farm operation if I was like, here's what you should do. You should do this. It's a really good idea. I've never done it, but you should try it. And I was like, no, I'm not into that. I want everything I've always done with consulting, with watershed restoration, with all of this stuff is I need to do it first and become comfortable enough that I know how to do it. Then I can help to educate others to do it or improve and modify things. I wasn't going to just jump right in and say, oh, this is how you could design your farm without having a farm. And I paid some prices for that, I would have to say, because I didn't have a good, clear context going in. But had to reassess how the farm's running and how I can cover the burn rate with consulting and still work doing watershed restoration, still work doing the farm work that I do, raising pasture, pork and pasture chicken, and making that the highest quality offering in the area. Yeah. So, I'm very, very grateful to have taken the workshop with you guys.
It's a great place to start. Hey, everybody. My name is Jab Bernakovich. I am offering the Regenerative Business Mentorship Program with my good friend and colleague, Rob Avis. And I'm speaking with Chris Moore today of many, many hats, many, many hands, and many, many pots, and just all-around exceptional human being. He was in our recent level 1 Regenerative Business Mentorship course, a 12-week course where we work and take on principles and help people with very specific problems. That was the nice thing about the program from my perspective is that here's a principle, and then Chris and others would say, well, what about this specific thing? And we were able to go through. So I'm talking with Chris today a little bit about his experience of the program now a month after we completed. And just to start off, Chris, what are the businesses you're involved in? What are the enterprises you're involved in? Give us a bit of the sense, and where are you located in the world?
So I'm located in Northern California in Humboldt County, and I own and operate a pastured pork and chicken operation where we raise the highest quality pork and chicken that we can offer to our local food shed. And I also conduct watershed restoration projects for salmon habitat and sediment reduction within the North Coast area. And then I also run a consulting business to help small farmers to go through the permitting process and design their farms for watershed health and ecosystem function.
I think the other piece there is you do a lot of design to help improve profitability, which is one of the conversations that brought you to the program. So where were you at pre-program, or what were the situations, what were the issues going on, the pain points, so to speak, that brought you to come to be in the program?
Some of the pain points I had coming in, I would say, were still struggling with the profitability elements and being spread too thin between the kind of 3 enterprises and looking at it as I needed to find a way to hone in, be better with my marketing, be better with my approach to the business side. It was the techniques, making those elements work, and not really valuing what I was doing at the highest offering. That was what kind of drew me into the program, seeing that I could look at the work I did and put a higher value on it and explain that value so that people wanted to work with me,
Mm.
even more than they did already.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bit of a clarity piece to really understand what you had to offer. What was the level of offering in terms of the scale that you were helping people to solve the problems that they came to you with? And then I think the one of the main pieces there was, okay, I've got all these fingers and all these pies. Which one of these pies actually tastes the sweetest for the least amount of effort?
Yeah. Yeah. That, I think the biggest thing I've seen is taking my best skill set that comes to me the most naturally, and moving that forward and putting my energy there and going with that sweeter pie. It definitely, I have been doing grant funded work for 11 years and have seen folly in it, pretty much from day one. But the way that system works is once I'm in, I was in, and it was this constant struggle to stay 2 to 3 years ahead. And it was kind of over the last 3 years, realizing, well, maybe I don't need to be in that system. I'm acting as an entrepreneur and accepting a ton of risk, except for I'm doing it for other people.
Yeah.
And I'm not bringing the value to me. I'm providing it to someone else. I'm writing these very high dollar projects and giving them away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making an hourly salary, but that was pennies on the dollar for what we were bringing into the company. And it was meeting you at PV3 in San Diego and talking to you briefly that it was kind of like, interesting. Those are some ideas I may have heard at some point in my life, and I don't think I've been implementing them very well. Interesting. I'm going to have to think about this. And I came home and I took an offering for a grant and I wrote it on my own with another geologist that I work with, and said, all right, let's do this. And then when this program came up, I was intrigued. And again, like, I'm not doing what those principles and those ideas, I'm not implementing them effectively. I'm not being efficient with implementing some of those business principles in my own work. So maybe I need to sign up and go through a workshop to get a bit of a kick in the ass and have some accountability to, like, oh yeah, that's right. I better do this because I'm going to have to sign up and talk to people about this at the end of the week. And if I didn't do it, I'm going to look like a real shithead. Pardon my language, but I think on some level, it's like I've been in such a routine of running around like a cat with his tail on fire that I was like, I needed to focus. I needed that accountability of a working group to say, hey, we're all working on these businesses together. They're very independent, but we're struggling through the same issues, or similar issues. So if we have that as a group of people, that's like we're all trying to get to this similar place and work together to get to that next level, then how can we bounce ideas off each other and have that camaraderie? I really liked the idea of we're the average of the 5 people we work with the most. It was kind of like, well, maybe I'm stagnant because I'm working with the same people I worked with for almost 11 years, and a lot of complacency there. So let's reach out and find other individuals that are working to create businesses and ideas that are, trying to make change.
That was one of the things that I remember from the midterm evaluation that you brought up, was that it was the community of people, the support network, the conversation, and then even for yourself, finding a number of individuals to work with to actually move the needle in what you were trying to do in terms of profitability and effectiveness further, because these individuals were like-minded.
Yeah. Working with Susan as my accountability partner through the program, we still talk every week. She texts me Monday morning and says, are you planning? because I had voiced concern to her that I had slipped for a couple of weeks because I had some large scale restoration projects that pulled me back into that grant cycle, that we're winding those down, and that, these are the last big projects that I have funded that I want to finish off strong. But it was like I got pulled out of my routine, that I wasn't doing it, and so I was falling it backwards a little bit. And I just voiced that concern, like, hey, I haven't done the planning because I've been pulled out of the office first thing in the morning to either go to some meeting that's pointless or to get in the field and work with equipment, which is not pointless, but it threw the entire weekly planning out the window. And it was like, oh no, I can't let this happen. So I've been back being more diligent, but it's been very interesting. Just she'll text and just be like, hey, are you doing that? I'm like, thank you. Yes, I am, actually. So, having that accountability partner, and then having the group to, help get in that routine, I guess, of working on the business and not just in the business. Far too common. I was just working in the business, and even through the course of the workshop with you guys, I was willing to accept the fact that, I need to hire in help to work on the farm, because the farm is profitable, but we're still building the farm, and my consulting is still bringing in money so that we can still invest in the development of the farm, because we've only been at farmers market for 2 years. This is not even a second year in doing that, but we've been producing for 5 and doing small scale and bootstrapping it along. And so it was like, I can do this other work. I can hire in, I can expand what I'm doing so that I can run some of this other work and make things happen. And it was like, all right, I am running a business. That's what I'm doing. It's not just a hobby. I don't have to do it all for it to be a functional business. So, having that accountability, having the people to reach out to and talk to and see, like, okay, there are those struggles. It's those moments where you feel like you're overwhelmed by all the work. And like, oh, I can delegate some of this work to people that have skill sets that can do it. And Susan and I have another webinar that we're going to be running here in the next couple of weeks on permitting for fish and wildlife permitting in California. And so we've partnered up on a handful of different things, and we've been working together on the Rex program with Darren. So that's been good too. So, yeah.
So you've mentioned a number of takeaways, which is excellent, because this is where we're going. Takeaways like working on the business instead of working in the business, being able to see all the intricate pieces, what's actually valuable, what isn't, and then being able to actually build new products. And I think the webinar series was a great one. The conversation was, I can't facilitate all of this influx before a permitting deadline. How do I help to serve my community? Because I want to. And the webinar idea, offering a webinar, lower price point, less hand-holding, but it's what you could do within the amount of time, help to create a little bit of autonomy. So the takeaways, besides that, were there any takeaways that really got to you, or things that, your little golden nuggets that you're still holding on to that you're really happy about?
I think one of the things I really think about is the concept of launching before you think you're ready. If you're embarrassed by your first launch, then it's not that bad of a deal. If it's so polished that it's all great, and you probably missed the boat. And, I had not run a webinar before going through the workshop with you and Rob, and doing the workshop with you and Rob through Zoom and through this format. I was like, I could do the same thing, because there's too many people coming at me wanting this permit in this short time frame. I'll do that. And then it opened up this idea of like, well, I can do more of those. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the right lighting. I don't have the right this. Oh, screw it all. I'll just do it. And I don't think I would have done that if I wouldn't have had that kind of idea of like, it's okay for it to be rough. It's okay for it to not be perfect and polished. It can be a little bit off. As long as the content's really good and the value's really there, and you provide that, and you are clear with that offering, then, you know, all the polishing things that can come later, that's fine. You know, you'll learn. And so, you know, even going through that first webinar, I was like, okay, well, here's a few things that we can do better. And that, having that was a huge one. You know, not subsidizing and accepting the idea that, you know, my current job through grant funding and that sort of thing allows me to be indifferent to our pork sales, not to reduce the price of our product, but to increase the price. And we did that through the course of the workshop. We went back and looked at the numbers and looked at the Excel spreadsheets to see what were we making, what's selling the best, and are we really making the income that we need to be making on our pork. And so I was able to increase the price of our product to the point where we're still making good sales, but we're not subsidizing it necessarily with our other enterprises. And we had been subsidizing somewhat, you know, before, because we weren't charging enough for certain cuts. And so now we are at the point where if I were to sell 10 pigs, I can sell 3 up front to individuals as whole or half animals. It covers the entire cost of processing and raising the rest of those. And then I take the rest to farmers market at an increased value because they're individual cuts. And so we're able to cover cost up front and then continue going forward from there.
Brilliant. When you take a look at, we've talked about some takeaways and we talked about where you were at the beginning. So where are you now, or what's been the result of the program, you know, mentally or from a business standpoint, or, you know, new contracts? Like, what's been the effect now, and where are you at today as opposed to, you know, Chris going on 4 months ago? Who's Chris and his enterprises today?
You know, I would say 4 months ago is like a cat with his tail on fire, running a bit in circles. I was busy and I was making it a living, but now there's more focus. I've had the confidence and the process to go through the sales process with a set of clients that I've worked with in the past on a farm design and permitting process. And we've signed a contract, and it's a year-long contract to create a farm design and plan for them and go through the permitting of that through all our local requirements and state requirements in California. And so that's a huge step forward. I don't think I would have had the confidence or the process to have sold that project at the value that I was able to sell it at.
Incredible.
I had previously worked with these clients and undervalued the offering to them by 10x for the first round of work with them. And they were so happy with what we did, they came to me during the course of this program and said, you know, we don't think we paid you enough for that first set of work, which I kind of had to walk away and be like, crap, you're right. And Javin and Rob were right. I'm not charging enough for what we're offering. And it's not that it's the price, it was the value. It was bringing huge value and not valuing it on my end appropriately. And so looking at the process and having a clear, you know, through the course of the workshop with you and Rob, it was like, oh, well, I can have a really good process to make the sale, even to someone I've already worked with at a much lower value, you know, cost, and was able to bring the next step of the process with them where we did the feasibility. Now we're doing the design. And so it's kind of like, all right, well, it's going to cost a fair amount more than what we discussed on the feasibility side.
Mm.
They were more than happy to do it because they were like, yes, the value's there. Your process is smooth. We like working with you.
Mm.
And in developing the contract, we looked at how do we make sure that we're going to hit all the high points about what you want, how at the end of this, we can check boxes.
Mm.
It's still like, I'm not going to put it in a box, but we can hit the high notes that make sure you walk away super happy. And I think there was a comment you made in one of the calls that was, you want to work with people that want to give you a hug, that you want to hug, and that are happy to pay you at the end of the job. And that to me is a huge difference. Having worked in the consulting business for, about 7 years privately, and then before that working for a government entity, it was quite often the consulting world, it's not like people are excited to work with you. They're like, they worked with you because they had to, because they needed that skill set. And I don't like that. I don't like that element of it. It's like, I want people to be super excited, and knowing that that's an okay thing to have, seeing other people that want that, and then having the process to make it so that it is really seamless and people are like, this is great. I like this. I don't mind. Yes, that price tag, okay, kind of high, but I think it's okay because what we're going to get out of it makes a lot of sense. And you've clearly articulated that. And I wasn't doing that before. It was like, okay, I'll do that job, probably doing it for way less than I should have.
Yeah.
And then I would become less excited about doing the work and provide lower quality work and so on and so on. So, that was a huge one. Hearing you say that, it was like, oh yeah, that is a good idea. I do like that. That's how I've always felt about it. And it's the same with our pork enterprise and chicken. It's like, I really like it when people come up and they're not even buying something. They're just so excited about what they bought 2 weeks earlier that they had to come and tell me. We had Wes Chesbrough, who used to be a senator, our congressman for our area. He's been buying from us, and he comes up and he just raves about how good it is. And I asked him, I was like, I would really love to have that on our website or have that on our Facebook. And I wouldn't have thought of that, before taking the workshop. It was talking with you and Rob about the idea of having those reputation building, the testimonials of the consumers that are, enjoying what you bring to market, be it consulting services or food or other products, and then actually having them come out and say, this is amazing. I love this. And, at farmers market, I get that a fair amount. People are just raving about it because we do produce the best pork. And we have 4 other pork producers at farmers market. And I've had numerous consumers come up and clients come up and say, well, we don't buy from them anymore. And I'm like, it's different. Call it what you will. It's different. What we do is I strive for the best. And I didn't come to farmers market until 1.5 years, 2 years ago, because I didn't believe it was the best. And so we sold to friends and we sold to, other people, and I got feedback. But now having that feedback and trying to put it onto our marketing copy and have it, there, it's kind of, that's a big piece that I got from the program, was using the reputation building piece, but having it be a static piece of content on the website or on our Facebook or things like that.
That's a great point. It's something we talk about a lot in the program, understanding the reputation that you have, understanding how to grind it out, and understanding a good sales process. Because if there's a good sales process, people they're so comfortable, they feel taken care of. We talk a lot about, and we even talked about some examples and did some role playing of really bad sales processes and how it's like pulling teeth, listening to the string section just in the horror moment, like so brutal. When you're looking at this program now after the fact, and talking to others, what's the recommendation? Who's a good fit for the program? Who would really take a lot out of this? And what's your sense in terms of your recommendation to them?
I feel like anybody that's running a new or existing business that doesn't have a clearly defined process to the sale would benefit from this, which is almost every business I've worked with. There's very few that it's like very clearly articulated what you're doing in the situation when you're the consumer. I would say I've talked to a lot of farmers that I work with through the farmers market that are looking for ways to improve, and they've been working at it, and they've been at it for a long time, and trying to figure out, well, what are the pieces I'm missing that how could I increase the sale and increase my, my offering at market without just growing more. And I've recommended them to check out the program at this point. I've also talked to a few local business people that have a native plant nursery and do restoration projects, and thought that, some of the work they're doing is grant funded, but a lot of the work they do is privately funded landscaping. And it's like, hey, you know what, you guys as a team would benefit from the process building, the reputation building, the marketing piece, from that, and then having a clear sales process of how that goes. How are you selling the design of that landscaping? How are the native plants better? Why are you doing it? What are the elements to that? Because when I've talked to them, I know why it's better because that's the work I do, but it's not totally clear. And I've talked to a couple other folks that are, into doing art and rock sculpting and things of that nature, that they're looking at, okay, I'm in this grant funded world, this restoration world, but what I'm really passionate about is this skill that I have, this craft that I have. And I was like, kind of, again, it's like, well, that's only a third of what you're doing. And there's 2 other thirds there that you need to start paying attention to or looking at or developing. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to charge the price to cover the value, the true value of what you're doing. It's looking at those thirds of the value to look at the reputation and the sales process and the doing it part. And that was a huge takeaway early on in the program. I was like, oh yes, it's okay to market. Marketing doesn't have to be icky. And I spoke with a caterer on Saturday who's been buying some of our pork at market, and she was handing me a flyer that was a 10% off a party event. It was like a little card flyer type thing. And she's like, I know this is, it's terrible on marketing. I know. And we live in such a community of hippie, leave me alone, don't market to me, don't try and sell me stuff. Kind of high-minded approach. It was like, no, it's totally good to market yourself. You have a high value you're offering to the community. You shouldn't feel icky about it. And what you're doing with this is only you're offering a 10% discount for what you're doing, to just anybody. It's not, it's not even a word of mouth thing. I was like, there are approaches that you could do to help yourself and, bring, value yourself and not feel icky about the marketing. It was like what she was doing wasn't icky at all. It was like, here you go. Here's this thing. It's free. Take it, leave it, throw it away, ignore it, but it wasn't very effective. And it was, in talking with her for a little while, she was like, oh my God, this idea of being okay with marketing has come up a couple times for me recently. And I was like, yeah, it's because it's really important if you're going to have a functional business. If you can't have a functional business without that piece, you will grind yourself into, just being burnt out. For me, it really was. It was taking that step back and saying, I can work on this business. I don't need to do the grinding part all the time. I can work on the business and spend that energy building the reputation so that people want to know who I am and then want to come to us. And so with the farm, we've been doing some of that reputation building through the market, farmers markets, and through a couple of restaurants. But with the consulting, it was like I haven't even really put my hand up to say, here's where we're at. So I'm trying right now to build reputation with a couple of small clients that then I can come back with and say, will you do testimonials for the work we're doing? And we did together, and then go from there.
Great, Maine. Great. Thanks so much for that. I really appreciate that. Any other comments or thoughts about the program? I really appreciate the time, and I know you got lots to do today, but anything else to add to the mix?
I would say I miss the weekly check-in call. I really, the format of using Zoom, have found to be incredibly simple compared to other webinar platforms, which made it really nice. It was not a hassle to sign up. On a Friday, it was not like, oh God, I have to jump through all these hoops to get this thing to actually function correctly. But it was, getting to hear the successes of other like-minded entrepreneurs striving for, improving what their business was and improving their quality of life and improving that the ability to reach that right livelihood. That part, I would say I actually miss a lot. It's like hearing other people's successes and reminding, staying on that path of like, here's the things that were wins for today or for the week, and then seeing what other people's highlights they were hitting. I missed that part of it. I look forward to the second round of principles that comes up, the 7 through 12. Partly because the first 6 were so simple and elegant, yet profound. Like I said, a lot of them were things I've heard or grew up with, but didn't implement. And so I would say they're very terse, as you would use, in a good way.
Elegantly brief.
Elegantly brief, yes. I've had a few people recently be like, terse doesn't mean that. I'm like, it does. They're like, that just means you're being rude. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
All right, Chris, thanks so much, mate. If people are interested in your pork or your consulting services, where can they find you?
They can find me at WoodyRynoFarms.com for our pork enterprise. And currently, I do not have a website for our consulting business, but I am reachable by WoodyRyno@gmail.com. And the Ryno is RYNO.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for the time, Chris, and all the best with the restoration work I know you got ahead of you.
Yep. Yeah, we're wrapping up the season right up to the end of the permit window to build these habitat structures. So we're racing fire and time.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you.